promoted to a supervisor reminds me of the transition to high school. That 12 to 14 age group where you go from being top of the pops in junior school, full of bravado, ego, and you know everything, to a couple of months into high school and everyone's looking at you differently. You're no longer in with the in crowd and you're wondering what the actual beep is this. But best I keep keeping on. Supervising others can be a roller coaster. Welcome to the ride. I am Nula.
And I am Karen. And we are the Safety Collaborators.
Our mission is to help people have better conversations and change the way they think about safety. Consider us your thinking partners, sharing expertise and wisdom in everything safety, safety culture, and psychological safety.
Over the next few episodes, we will be exploring what you may experience becoming a supervisor or a new frontline leader or just moving into the next role of leadership. How supervisors impact safe operations, how the value of understanding self and others to create inclusive teams, and the ROI of investing in effective safety leadership. ROI being the return of investment, or I wonder if it's return of engagement. Don't know.
We might need to change it to ROE.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been one of these people who always ended up in a leadership role in some shape or form from an early age. And interestingly, I'm not sure I always sought it out, but I ended up there every time, whether it was running a team in a factory, to managing a training division, to another story, and one that I remember very, very clearly, because in this particular story, we were software consultants, essentially, that's what I was, and we implemented payroll, time recording, linking to payroll systems. That's what we were doing. And we do this all over the country and sometimes the world. And I remember one morning going to the office, and at this point, I'm just part of the team. I'm not leading anybody. I'm not managing anybody. I'm just part of the team. I arrived in the office and the owners of the business, who actually lived in another state, so this was back in Australia many years ago, were in the office. And I thought, well, that's really unusual. Why are they here? Because normally we know they're coming.
Yes. Do.
Exactly. The next thing I know, we're all standing there, and the company that we were, or the division that we were a part of, is being shut down. We're moving offices. We're breaking away from the people that we were working with in Sydney.
Oh, wow.
And we're all standing there going, okay, what does that mean? So all of us consultants, everybody was just like big eyes listening to, we're going to amalgamate and we're going to do this and blah, 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 all that stuff.
And all you're hearing is, what's in it for me? What's going to happen? Do I have a job?
Do I have a job? Exactly. Then they said, oh, so Karen, can we have a little conversation with you? I said, sure. Thinking, oh my God, here it comes. Right, here it comes. We'd like you to become the state manager for this team. Right. I went, yeah, sorry? You want me to become the what? Yeah, so we'd like you to become the state manager. Oh, I'm going, what does that mean? So we're moving offices, like the new office was going to be 45 minutes away from the one around the corner from where I lived. And I went, okay, great. So what does that mean exactly? Well, you'll take care of sales and our client base and help develop the team and all of this. I'm thinking, okay, like how many times have I done this before in my life up to this point? Like virtually none. But of course it comes with a pay increase, and it came with the perks of being a leader. And I thought, oh, great, so I'll get some support and I'll be supported in all of this. Oh, so we move into the new office and things start trundling along and I get my own office. Woo! What a period in my life that was, because all of a sudden I'm here managing my peers. And of course...
Yeah, people that you were actually friends with and would go for Friday drinks with.
Absolutely. So all of a sudden, those things that I've observed as a peer that, well, not my responsibility because I'm not their manager or leader, became my problem. So I had to learn very quickly how to have tough conversations. And I'm going to say right here and now that I'm not sure I did that very well back then.
I don't think we do in the beginning.
No, of course we don't. We grow into it.
We're trying to figure it out ourselves and we go, oh my God, that was a bit of a mess. Oops.
Well, it was very damaging for me, in fact, because one of the other persons thought they should have had the role.
Oh, okay. So then there's a bit of competition and ego
And of course, I'm sort of like, oh, well, everybody will be happy. Like, we'll be good. We'll just work together and figure it out. It's not like that at all. And I also had competition from some people who were in another state, right? I mean,
oh, wow.
Oh, no, it was pretty tough, actually, to the point where I actually didn't come back into the office for a couple of days because I actually got quite sick, like mentally overwhelmed by the whole thing. I wasn't supported by head office. I can remember thinking, we're just out here, this is a cricket term, out in left field without a bat.
Yeah.
So we were sort of just left alone as a satellite office and we weren't getting the support. I was trying to get the support for the team. I was trying to get all of that, trying to learn how to manage a team and a group of people. And there was no one I could go to. There was just almost nobody to turn to. And, we didn't have Google and all sorts of other things back then.
No.
We had the yellow pages. Not helpful. So coaching was a word that didn't even exist.
Well, actually, and I am going to use the term that actually it was just pretty shitty.
It was shitty. It was. It was painful. And I can remember I went home one afternoon and I was pretty upset. I went home and I can remember I was sharing a house at the time with some friends. We had a pool and I can remember sitting there in the afternoon. I was drinking red wine, looking at the pool and thought, this is all a bit difficult. It was a pretty serious moment. And that's how bad it can get when we get promoted or we, by choice or not, take on a role and don't get the support that's required to be successful. So often we are set up to fail.
And it hurts.
And it hurts very much.
Deeply. Yeah. Especially when you're promised a million things and, oh my gosh, like reward, everything kind of comes in. You think, oh, this is so awesome. It's so amazing. And then you just face plant along the way.
Absolutely. And I was shocked by some of the conversations I was having with people who I thought, oh, hang on, I thought we were friends, I thought we knew each other. And they were mean.
The knives are out and that's...
Totally. So it was a pretty tough gig, I have to say. And in the end, I just had enough. And that's what happens. Good people leave.
Good people leave, but also they take that trauma with them into their next role.
Yes, they do.
And then there's a sense of apprehension and... Am I good enough? Will I make this work? Actually, no, I think I'll just go back into being a worker. I don't want to lead people.
Which, interestingly, is exactly what I did. And within 6 months of taking that role on, guess what? I was the leader again. By this point, I'm like, okay, it's obviously my lot in life, but
Yeah, we just can't keep a good one down.
Well, that still came up with challenges as well. But anyhow, interesting. And we'll talk about some stats in a little bit, which plays right into what I've just said.
When people are promoting us into leadership roles, it's never with malice.
No.
It's always with the best intention. And it's always kind of thinking that you are the right person and the right fit. And generally, you probably are or could be, but you don't know what you don't know. And I mean, my first leadership role, I was 19.
Yeah, well, same.
I thought I knew everything. And in many ways, thank goodness I did think I knew everything because I wouldn't have put my hand up for half the stuff I did if I actually knew what I was getting into in that stage. And I also remember looking at people like the supervisors above me and the level above that and thinking, oh, they don't really do much. I mean, they just do meetings and paperwork. That'll be easy. Like, what a breeze. Oh, my word. No, definitely not a breeze. And having to deal with people, again, who were peers, who were possibly a lot older than me and had a lot more life experience, work experience, and possibly did know or have ideas on how things could work better. And I remember some of those hard lessons were about that realization of the more I learn, the less I know.
Hell yeah.
And the more I did learn, the more I realized the value of those with more experience, whether they were my leader or whether they were reporting into me, and to pull them into discussions and into the roles, because there were some times that, it was just epic failures. I remember I was managing a logistics company, both the customer service division and the operational side, and we needed to do training. I'd worked in the operation. I started in the business right at the bottom, worked my way up. So, of course, I knew what the operations did and how it worked. I developed the training. Never went to one of the people who actually did the job to say, how about this? So now I'm doing the training, and there's some of them looking at me like, what on earth are you talking about? It doesn't work like that. And thankfully, we had enough of a relationship that they were, at the end of it, they were like, one of the guys came over to me and he said, Nuala, I've got to be honest with you, that was utter crap. You have no idea what you're talking about. It does not work like that. You might think it works like that, but guess what? It doesn't. And again, that was such a lesson I'm grateful to have had at a young age, because when I then moved into different roles and moved into consulting, one of the things that we still carry forward with every one of our clients is being hands-on, observing what is happening on the ground with the supervisors, with the teams, seeing what the reality is, and then going, how would you as the team like to improve? What would you like to do differently? And then pulling that up to management and saying, here are the ideas from the group. What can we do and what can't we? I don't think I had as rough a ride as you did.
Oh, no, I had a couple, actually. Yeah.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to be that.
No, it doesn't.
But it still is.
And it's very much so. I suspect there's even more confusion today than ever. I think part of it is also looking at ourselves as that individual going into the role. We're different people, whereas you probably will have just gone, well, I'm just going to go and do whatever. I do see myself as what I call myself as a freedom fighter. I will fight for the team tooth and nail. So when I get hurt by members of that team, then I take it very, very hard. So I think part of that lessons is in both cases. First of all, learning to ask for help sooner rather than later. Because part of mine probably was, well, I'm supposed to know this, so I can't ask my boss because I'm supposed to know this.
They put me in this position.
Exactly. So you keep going through this circle of, Jesus, they want me to do a what?
A what?
A review on someone? How the hell do I do that? Right? Performance reviews. Doing that on people that...
It's like, where do I even start?
No idea. And there was no one to talk or ask, And then you say, well, I think I need some training. No, we haven't got the budget for that, or we haven't got the time, or we haven't got this. So,
but you're doing okay. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that still happens today. That's why people are on lots of different leadership training courses out there.
And that's why Google is so prolifically used.
Yes, but then the challenge with Google...
What is a performance review? Well, then you get...
100 ideas and options, and you think, oh my God, that's a little overwhelming.
Yep.
What on earth do I do there? And so then you end up not doing anything, or you just wing it, which is okay. If you get through the winging, great. Sometimes we don't. So it really is challenging.
When you first go into a supervisory role, you will copy what you have learned from those around you.
And then there's that.
Or you might go, ooh, I really didn't appreciate the way that I was supervised by Bob, Jane, and or whomever. I don't want to be like that. So you go pendulum swing all the way to the other side, which causes issues all of its own, because usually it's somewhere in the middle. And I think of new parents. And when new parents have their first baby, generally, they've read all these books because there's a lot of info out there. They're going to have the perfect baby, the perfect child that's going to have all the milestones exactly according to what's in the book. And nothing goes like that. You go back to the book, or you go, but what, where? And you just have to figure it out. It's a trial and error. And I think a lot of the time, supervising teams is left to trial and error.
I think something you just raised is really important. There is lots of information out there, as you just said. There's lots of books on how to do it. You can read all the books in the world, but when push comes to shove, you have to wing it. It is an experiment. At least, hopefully, when you're parents, there's two of you, you can support each other, or you've got your other family members like your mother or the ones that have been there before you. And even then, it's still going to be different.
And you're still going to go, I want to do it my way.
And then there's that. So it is a little bit like that. So there's lots and lots of information about leadership and how to be a leader. And then you're faced with a situation. You have to have a tough conversation. And it's usually the tough conversations that become the most difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah.
Because often people are promoted into that position because they were technically good at something.
Yes.
Yeah. So whether it was being a consultant, whether it's being a salesperson, whether it's being a driller, we're technically good at what we do. Whether it's a mechanic, it doesn't really matter what it is. Making dresses.
Exactly.
We're technically good at something. And then you say, right, now I want you to be the leader of that group. So we've gone from feeling 75% of our day being great and we know what we're doing to 75% of our day having no idea what we're doing, really.
Going, what just happened?
And so, we've seen that. We see it in the field when people get promoted and they end up going back to where they were comfortable, which then causes problems within the team.
Yeah.
Because then you may be seen as micromanaging, or we step right away and like, oh, they don't care, they're useless, Yeah. So it's trying to find that balance. There was a book I read a little while ago and 3 things stuck to me. The very first thing to do is, when we go into this role, that's if you've got the wherewithal to realise this, you've got to work on yourself first. So what you mentioned earlier, you've got to listen, watch, learn, understand, build rapport, build trust in a different way. Then look at the environment you're in. Then you work on what the environment is. Because I think what happens when a lot of people do move into that new role or leadership or whatever, they go, right, well, I know there's problems in this team, so I'm going to fix them all.
Yep.
And that's not the thing to do. You've got to see yourself first.
Build trust.
Indeed. As this new role in this new position is, how do we build trust? How do we look at the environment? What's the systems and processes here? How do I work with this? Because now, as that leader, I've got to manage upwards as well as
exactly
the team, and as well as possibly clients and suppliers and all those other conflicts and requations. And then the people part comes. Now, half the problems may have been resolved by the time you fix the first 2. If you're lucky. If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. I think we've mentioned it before. The people who go into supervisory and leadership positions might as well be applying for a superhero position with the Avengers.
Oh, my God. And today it's worse than ever.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we did cover quite a few of those. We did a leadership series between episodes 44 and 46, where we looked at empathy and compassion as a leader and what is leadership accountability and responsibility, because there is so much. And for new supervisors, it really is one of those, is your environment that you're in yourself one where you can feel comfortable to say, I think I need to learn a bit more? Or, as you said, that being able to ask for help. And you mentioned stats earlier. Can you remember, what are the stats? When is it that supervisors are usually given training after becoming a supervisor?
So I wrote an article, must be 5 years ago now, for a coaching magazine. And you reminded me of it when you mentioned the word pendulum swing, because it's actually called the blue to white collar pendulum swing. And we'll add it into this. And part of that discussion was that on average, and I don't believe this statistic has changed, on average, it takes 14 years before a leader or a team leader gets any leadership training at all, in whatever shape or form that is.
Wow.
So the problem with that, of course, and now for some that'll be less, and for others it'll be maybe never official training in leadership skills. And I think there's some lacking in some of those courses and things that are out there as well, even if we do go on them.
Well, sometimes it's seen as a tick box, you've had bad reviews, we'll send you on training.
Precisely.
And it's any training will do.
Yeah.
Preferably the cheapest.
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is it becomes a self-perpetuating problem. So you have somebody who walks into this new role, they don't get the support they need. They look at others who may or may not be ideal role models. They then take on that because that's what their experience base is. They then maybe progress to the next layer, take all of those maybe not best qualities of leadership with them. And so it keeps going and keeps going. And then eventually, maybe they'll become quite senior. And then we need to spend an awful lot of expensive coaching money to help them be better. in that role at that time. And there's different skills are required at different layers of leadership, without a doubt. What you need as a C-suite executive is quite different to what you need when you're just becoming an on-site and managing hands-on type of thing. So our focus is kind of more at that end anyway. And then the other challenge is we send them on to a training course when that happens, and they go on that training course and they get quite enthusiastic. And they think, that's some great ideas here. I'll go back and I'll talk to my manager about what we can maybe implement here. And of course, I'm going back to, well, the problems haven't gone away. You've just been away for 4 or 5 days. And now we've got a backlog of work or whatever the case may be. And
there's 200 emails in your inbox.
And that conversation doesn't go any further. Or it's like, yeah, we'll talk about it next week. And next week never comes. So then you get a little deflated and you think, well, what's the point of going on this training anyway? Because I can't do anything with it. Again, we're giving worst case scenarios here, but it's a very common one. So how can we help that?
Yeah, I remember there's also, it's something along the lines of like the 30-day rule or something. I'll have to look it up. But it's within 30 days of going on a training program, if you have not reiterated, implemented, tested, trialed, you will lose
80%
of what you learned on that program.
Especially if it's new. So you within the first 3 weeks, you will forget 80% of what you learned. And we only really learn about 10% anyway. And in the following 3 weeks, you lose another 80%. So by the time you get to about 12 weeks out from when you've been on that, you've pretty much forgotten most of it.
Yeah, you might as well have not bothered.
If you don't get the chance to iterate, to experiment, to implement, to do something with it.
It's tough for supervisors and leaders.
Yes.
Because they're also trying to just get their job done and get things. And they might know that, okay, we know that Nuala needs help. So we're going to send Nuala on this training course. And as you said, Nuala comes back all enthusiastic. And they're going, oh, that's fabulous, just get on with it. And then it's like, oh, but it's not that my leader is not wanting to support me. But they also just don't have the capacity.
Correct.
They don't have the capacity to coach. They don't have the capacity to have that kind of like experimental conversation or to bounce the ideas. And they may to a degree, but maybe not to the degree that is needed for the momentum. So again, we come back to that question of how could we do things differently? You know, how can we do things in a way that we don't have that 80% drop-off, that we don't have people feeling left alone, kind of moving from friend to fiend because their friends have gone, oh, you're no longer that nice person we dealt with. You've now had me in a disciplinary hearing because I wasn't wearing the correct PPE or I didn't follow the procedure, you know, and now all of a sudden I'm definitely not in with the in crowd.
No.
Or you try and have those difficult conversations and you think you're giving really good feedback. Meanwhile, it is landing like a freaking Led Zeppelin on top of the other person's head and they feel like they've been sucker punched and they're like, where did that even come from? Because giving and receiving feedback is not easy.
No, it's not. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what that actually means and how to do it. And it's not a, if you do this, you'll get that. It just doesn't really work like that. It's about nuance. It's about observing. And that's where conversational intelligence is very helpful. So having an understanding of, well, where do we live on the trust cycle? What different types of conversations are needed when? Because they're not all the same. When do we need to be transactional? When do we need to be a little influential?
Direct.
Or directive?
Yes.
You know, when do we be transformational? Where we look more at, okay, let's work on this together versus I need you to follow this instruction. So there's many variations in that. And understanding where you're at emotionally in that moment is critical. How are you showing up? Are you angry? Are you not? Are you feeling sad? Are you, you know, what emotions are sitting there with you at the moment? Are you frustrated?
Where are you on your own roller coaster? Never mind the roller coaster of being a supervisor.
Exactly. Key skills of leadership is understanding, having your self-awareness. I mean, that's why we do some profiling, you know, work. That's why we run workshops on conversational intelligence and the like.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking, what on earth is conversational intelligence? Surely that's just conversations.
No.
Well, there isn't. There's a whole depth to it. And, you know, we could actually do like a little mini follow these episodes and you can grow yourself in so many aspects, which is why we do this podcast.
Indeed.
So we will put in the show notes links to the conversational intelligence series in episodes 38 to 43. as well as the episodes where we've dived into giving feedback and how do we approach others in episodes 31 and 32, because there's such rich information for you as a supervisor, whether you're a new supervisor
Or not.
or whether you're a supervisor that has a lot of experience and you're just going, I just need a little bit of energy and I need some nuance. It's a great place to go looking.
It is.
Yeah. When we look up and we look at supervisors above us and we go, oh, that just looks terrifying. Because sometimes it isn't, what I thought, it's going to be so easy, la la. Some people are quite more realistic than I was. And they go, I don't want to look like a fool. I mean, there's no ways I'm going to be able to do this. And then people actually decline promotion opportunities, which is really sad because there should be that support. And Kaz, you and I talk about this so often. So what if there was a neutral space to learn, to have peer support and to get leadership coaching and have someone to turn to when you are in that supervisory role?
We are going to introduce, so this is a little bit of a plug, and we'd love to get your thoughts on this. We do have a dream to create that space, and we're actually calling it the Safety Leaders Hub. Now, it's interesting, we're using the word safety in there, but really it's about creating a safe space for leaders and for frontline leaders in particular, where you can join, have conversations, where you'll be able to ask for some help, but it's also about peer learning. So it's not just yourself, but others are in that community. So it's about building a community hub where there'll be some micro learning in there. You'll be able to get some coaching if you wish. There'll be group coaching. There'll be conversations and caring, connected conversations. And that's really what we want to build, is a space for people to feel safe and to build the skills and what they need. And everybody's needs are different at different times. The idea is that, you feel safe enough to be able to speak up, to contribute, and to get things done safely for the benefit of yourself and your team. So you can get involved. We actually have a waiting list because we're going to launch this in the next month or two. We have a waiting list for people to come on here, and it is called the Safety Leaders Hub. So feel free to visit safetycollaborations.com/the Safety Leaders Hub. And you can actually have a look a bit more about information on what is on there and sign up to get onto the waiting list. And we'll keep you updated onto where we're at with that before it launches.
And remember that you and your teams are not alone in this. And we have an opportunity to build a community that supports, that nurtures, that challenges and grows supervisors to support the front line. And join us in the next few episodes where we are going to dive into that a little bit more deeper. So have a look at what is important about understanding self and others. How does that take us to the next level of safe operations? And it's often a hard question, and I don't think it's one that we'll be able to answer in a podcast, but really having a look at what is, and I loved your reframe of return on investment, Karen, to return on engagement in developing safety leaders and supervisors who have support in the roles that they're doing. And as always, we'd love to hear your ideas.
Yeah.
So leave us a thought or a note on the show notes. There's a space for you to do that, or on our LinkedIn page, Safety Collaborations, because this is about you, and your ideas and your thoughts are going to help us grow the Supervisors Safety Leaders Hub into something, that really adds value.
Absolutely. We love having these conversations, and we will continue to have these conversations with you. And we love that we can get into your ears and have these personal chats. So do follow us on LinkedIn, Safety Collaborations, or myself, Karen Avari, on Nuala, of course, Nuala Gage. And sharing is caring. We want this to spread and to help others. That is the purpose behind doing these weekly episodes, so that we can have conversations for the greater good. So follow us on your favourite podcast platform. Leave us a review, 5 stars would be awesome. And let's share our collective conversations. Until next week, stay safe and stay well.